INFJs often experience a strange pattern in life. People misunderstand them before they understand them, dislike them before they appreciate them, and doubt them before they respect them. This does not happen because INFJs are doing something wrong. It happens because INFJs naturally bring a level of depth, honesty, and awareness that many people are not used to. Their presence feels different. Their communication feels different. Their silence feels different. And anything that feels different often gets judged first. When people meet an INFJ, they are not always sure what to make of them. INFJs observe quietly, listen carefully, and respond thoughtfully. They do not rush into conversations or push for attention. They take time to understand what is happening around them. This calm and reflective style can confuse people who expect quick reactions, loud personalities, or predictable behavior. Instead of seeing the INFJ's quiet nature as strength, many people quickly assume it means coldness, arrogance, or disinterest. INFJs also have a depth that stands out right away. They feel emotions strongly, think in layers, and look beyond the surface. Even without trying, they pick up on details other people overlook. This makes some people uncomfortable, especially those who are used to hiding behind charm, humor, or confidence. They may sense that the INFJ sees through these layers, even if the INFJ never says it out loud. This creates insecurity, which often turns into dislike. Another reason INFJs are judged early is because they do not follow common social patterns. They do not pretend, exaggerate, or compete for approval. They speak with honesty and act with intention. They do not fit easily into groups that value popularity over substance. This difference can make them stand out in ways that others do not understand at first. People often resist what they do not understand, and INFJs feel that resistance quickly. But with time, something shifts. Once people see the INFJ's loyalty, compassion, insight, and authenticity, they begin to appreciate them deeply. The same qualities that caused confusion at first become the qualities that make others trust, value, and respect the INFJ on a deeper level. This video explains why the INFJ is often disliked before they are accepted, and why the early judgments eventually turn into admiration. Reason number 1. Their depth feels overwhelming. INFJs naturally operate at a depth that many people are not comfortable with. They think deeply about emotions, motives, relationships, and meaning. They ask themselves why people behave the way they do, what their words really mean, and what is happening beneath the surface of every interaction. This instinctive depth is not something they try to create. It is simply the way their mind works. But for many people, this depth feels overwhelming. Most people move through life on a surface level. They focus on daily tasks, routine conversations, and simple social interactions. They prefer clear answers and predictable patterns. When they meet someone like an INFJ, who responds with thoughtful pauses or asks questions that reveal deeper layers, it feels unfamiliar. They may assume the INFJ is being intense when the INFJ is simply being themselves. INFJs also bring emotional depth into conversations, even when they are not trying to. They can sense when someone is hiding sadness, frustration, or insecurity. They notice shifts in tone, body language, and energy. This sensitivity makes them react in ways that others are not prepared for. Someone may be trying to stay cheerful on the outside, while the INFJ gently responds to the emotion they feel underneath. This can make the person feel exposed, even if the INFJ had no intention of exposing anything. People who are not ready to face their own emotions often push back. They may accuse the INFJ of being too serious, too sensitive, or too analytical. They may feel judged, even though the INFJ never said anything judgmental. The INFJ is simply mirroring the truth that is already in the room. But not everyone wants the truth reflected back to them. Another part of this depth is the INFJ's communication style. They prefer honest, thoughtful conversations. They do not enjoy gossip, competition, or empty small talk. When they avoid these common social habits, others may think they are rejecting the group or acting superior. In reality, the INFJ is simply trying to stay grounded and truthful. But people who rely on these shallow interactions for connection may feel threatened or confused. INFJs also carry a quiet intensity. They think before they speak. They observe before they act. They process everything internally. This can make their presence feel heavier than they intend. Some people interpret this intensity as coldness or dislike. Others assume the INFJ is judging them. In truth, the INFJ is simply absorbing the environment and trying to make sense of it. Over time, however, people begin to see the value in this depth. They realize the INFJ's insight is helpful, not threatening. They appreciate the INFJ's ability to understand emotions that others ignore. They feel comforted by the INFJ's steady presence and thoughtful reactions. What once felt overwhelming becomes grounding. What once felt intimidating becomes comforting. Depth is misunderstood at first, but valued later. Reason number 2. Their intuition sees what others avoid. INFJs have a natural ability to notice things most people overlook. Their intuition picks up patterns, hidden motives, emotional inconsistencies, and unspoken truths. They sense when something is off, even if everyone else believes everything is fine. This intuition is subtle but powerful, and it creates one of the biggest reasons INFJs are disliked early on. People feel exposed. Most people move through life without wanting to look too closely at their flaws, insecurities, or contradictions. They avoid inner reflection because it feels uncomfortable. But an INFJ sees these things, whether the person hides them or not. They read between the lines. They sense tension behind a smile. They detect insincerity behind polite words. They feel the emotional truth beneath the surface. Even if the INFJ does not mention it, their presence alone can make others feel vulnerable. People who fear being seen often react with defensiveness. They may snap at the INFJ, criticize them, or avoid them entirely. They may claim the INFJ is imagining things or reading too deeply. In reality, they are uncomfortable because the INFJ is right. The INFJ simply sees what they do not want to face. This intuition also makes the INFJ ask questions that others avoid. They may ask why someone is acting differently, or why a situation feels strange, or why someone's words do not match their behavior. These questions are not meant to challenge anyone. They come from genuine curiosity. But people who rely on distractions or denial to get through life often dislike these questions. They feel threatened by the accuracy of the INFJ's observations. Another reason INFJ intuition creates early dislike is because it disrupts manipulation. Manipulative or dishonest people are uncomfortable around INFJs because they can sense lies almost instantly. Even if the INFJ stays silent, the other person feels exposed. They may react by disliking, criticizing, or rejecting the INFJ before the INFJ can call out the truth. This is a form of self-protection for the manipulator, but it feels like sudden hostility to the INFJ. Intuition also leads the INFJ to predict outcomes accurately. They warn others about toxic relationships, unhealthy decisions, or risky situations. At first, people may see this as negativity or overthinking. They may accuse the INFJ of being dramatic or worrying too much. Later, when the INFJ's predictions come true, people realize the INFJ was not being negative. They were being perceptive. Over time, people begin to appreciate the INFJ's intuition. They see that the INFJ can guide them through confusion, help them understand their emotions, and point out truths that lead to real growth. What once made them uncomfortable becomes something they rely on. The INFJ's insight first threatens, then heals. Reason number 3, their high standards and integrity. INFJs live by strong inner values. They care about honesty, respect, fairness, and authenticity. They try to do the right thing, even when it is difficult. They avoid lies, manipulation, and shallow behavior. Their standards are not about perfection. They simply expect consistency, truth, and genuine effort from themselves and from others. But these high standards often create early tension with people who are not used to them. When people first meet an INFJ, they may feel judged without the INFJ saying a single word. This happens because the INFJ's quiet integrity highlights what others may be lacking. Someone who cuts corners, lies casually, or acts selfishly may become uncomfortable around someone who naturally holds stronger values. They sense the difference and react defensively. The INFJ becomes a mirror that shows them their own weaknesses, even if the INFJ never points them out. INFJs also expect honesty in communication. They do not like games, mixed signals, or dishonesty. When someone is inconsistent or vague, the INFJ notices instantly. They ask direct questions, clarify misunderstandings, and encourage transparency. This can make people feel exposed, especially if they are hiding something or trying to avoid responsibility. Instead of appreciating the INFJ's clarity, they become annoyed or defensive. Another part of the INFJ's high standards is their loyalty. They take relationships seriously and expect sincerity in return. They do not appreciate half efforts or shallow intentions. When someone senses this, they may feel pressure because they are not ready for the level of honesty and commitment the INFJ naturally brings. Instead of confronting this truth, some people push the INFJ away to avoid feeling inadequate. INFJs also speak up when something feels wrong. They may do it quietly, but they do it. They stand by their values even when others disagree. This can frustrate people who prefer to go along with the crowd. They see the INFJ's independence as stubbornness or judgment when the INFJ is simply being true to themselves. Over time, however, people begin to respect these qualities. They realize the INFJ is reliable, trustworthy, and loyal. They see that having someone with strong values brings stability and honesty into their life. What felt like judgment earlier becomes admiration later. The same standards that cause discomfort at first later become the reason people trust and appreciate the INFJ. Reason number 4. Their quiet power and independence. INFJs are not loud, but they are strong. They do not seek attention, but they naturally stand out. They do not brag about their abilities, but people notice their presence. This quiet power often confuses or threatens others who expect confidence to be loud or dominant. Because the INFJ does not fit the usual pattern, people misread their independence as arrogance, aloofness, or disinterest. INFJs carry themselves with calm confidence. They think before acting, and they do not feel the need to be the center of attention. This unsettles people who rely on noise, charm, or status to feel important. When someone sees the INFJ remaining composed, while others seek validation, they may feel insecure. The INFJ's calm nature shines a light on other people's need for external approval, and not everyone likes that reflection. Independence also makes the INFJ hard to influence. They have their own ideas, their own values, and their own direction. They will listen politely, but they will not follow blindly. This frustrates people who expect compliance or who are used to controlling others. They cannot sway the INFJ easily, and that resistance often turns into early dislike. INFJs also avoid unnecessary drama. They step back from conflict that feels pointless. They refuse to engage in gossip or competition. This makes them seem distant to people who bond through drama. Instead of understanding the INFJ's need for peace, Some interpret it as judgment or disapproval. Quiet strength also appears in how the INFJ handles difficult people. They may be gentle, but they are not weak. When someone crosses their boundaries, the INFJ does not explode. They withdraw. They stop feeding the connection. They cut off access. This calm detachment shocks people who expected the INFJ to tolerate everything forever. Instead of respecting the INFJ, some people feel offended by this distance and begin to dislike them. Later, however, people recognize the value of this quiet power. They see the INFJ as someone who stays grounded during chaos, someone who thinks clearly instead of reacting impulsively, someone who protects their peace instead of seeking approval. What once felt like coldness becomes a sign of strength. What once felt like arrogance becomes independence. People admire the INFJ only after they understand what the INFJ was doing all along. Reason number 5. Their selective openness and privacy. INFJs do not open up to everyone. They share their inner world slowly, carefully, and only with people they trust. At the beginning, this selective openness can make others feel confused or suspicious. They may think the INFJ is hiding something, or that the INFJ doesn't like them, or that the INFJ is emotionally closed. In reality, INFJs are simply protective of their inner thoughts and feelings. Most people reveal themselves quickly through stories, jokes, usamas, emotions, and social habits. When they meet someone who is quiet and private, they may assume the worst. They expect openness as proof of trust, but INFJs do not work that way. They watch first. They observe. They learn who someone really is. They build trust slowly because their emotions run deep. This slow reveal can make impatient or insecure people dislike them early on. Some people misinterpret the INFJ's privacy as coldness. They may think the INFJ is ignoring them or judging them. Others assume the INFJ is being mysterious on purpose, when the INFJ is simply guarding their emotions. People who expect instant connection often react negatively to the INFJ's careful pace. Privacy can also make people feel uncomfortable because they cannot easily read the INFJ. Many rely on quick transparency to feel secure. When someone does not reveal everything immediately, they start imagining negative meanings. They may project their own fears or insecurities onto the INFJ, creating tension that has nothing to do with the INFJ's real intentions. Another part of this problem is that INFJs reveal themselves only when they sense safety. They share their ideas, emotions, and vulnerabilities slowly. They prefer meaningful conversations over casual disclosure. But until that deeper level of trust is formed, others may feel excluded or confused. They may think the INFJ is distant when the INFJ is simply cautious. However, once people get to know the INFJ and understand their personality, everything changes. They realize the INFJ opens up with sincerity, depth, and honesty. They see that the INFJ's trust is meaningful and rare. They appreciate the emotional safety the INFJ creates and the genuine connection that develops slowly over time. What was once misunderstood as distance becomes a sign of emotional maturity. What was once seen as secrecy becomes a sign of purity and sincerity. Reason number 6. Their authenticity and unconventional nature. INFJs move through the world in a way that does not match the usual social patterns. They value honesty over popularity, depth over entertainment, and meaning over convenience. This makes them different from the start. While some people admire authenticity, many react negatively to it at first because it challenges the way they behave, think, or present themselves. INFJs do not pretend to be someone else. They do not follow trends just to blend in. They do not change their personality to please a group. They speak truthfully and act with intention. For people who rely on approval, masks, or social games, this honesty can feel uncomfortable. It can make them feel exposed or questioned, even if the INFJ never says a critical word. Simply being genuine highlights who is not. Another part of the INFJ's authenticity is their unique perspective. They see life through patterns, meaning, symbolism, and intuition. They think deeply about decisions and rarely follow the crowd. This makes them unpredictable to people who expect predictable behavior. When someone does not act the way others expect, it often leads to suspicion or dislike. People misunderstand the INFJ because they cannot easily categorize them. INFJs also refuse to participate in fake interactions. They avoid drama, gossip, and competition. They do not laugh at jokes that hurt others, and they do not engage in conversations that feel shallow or harmful. This can make others feel judged, even though the INFJ is simply staying true to their values. People who depend on these social habits may dislike the INFJ at first because the INFJ's choices highlight their own behavior. Another reason INFJ authenticity causes early negativity is because the INFJ does not hide their discomfort when something feels wrong. They may go quiet, withdraw, or change their energy. Sensitive people notice this shift and may take it personally. They assume the INFJ dislikes them when the INFJ is simply reacting honestly to the situation. However, everything changes once people understand the INFJ more deeply. They begin to value the INFJ's straightforwardness in a world full of mixed signals. They respect the INFJ's commitment to living with purpose and honesty. They appreciate the INFJ's ability to stay true to themselves instead of following others. What once seemed strange becomes inspiring. What once felt uncomfortable becomes admirable. Authenticity is often rejected at first, but later, it becomes the reason people trust and appreciate the INFJ most. INFJs are often judged before they are understood. Their depth, intuition, honesty, privacy, independence, and authenticity all stand out immediately. People who are not used to these qualities may react with confusion, insecurity, or discomfort. This leads to early rejection, criticism, or misunderstanding. But with time, the same qualities people disliked become the qualities they respect most. People eventually notice how steady, loyal, insightful, and sincere the INFJ truly is. They see that the INFJ does not pretend, manipulate, or follow the crowd. They start to appreciate the emotional safety, thoughtful guidance, and quiet strength the INFJ brings into their life. The first reaction may be resistance, but the final reaction is usually admiration. This pattern does not mean the INFJ is wrong. It simply means they are different. And different is often misunderstood before it is valued. When INFJs understand this, they stop blaming themselves for early rejection. They learn to trust their nature, protect their energy, and allow people to understand them in time. Those who are meant to stay will see the INFJ clearly. And when they do, they will appreciate the qualities they once misjudged.